The Templeton Twins by Ellis, Weiner. Please turn to page 114 and 115 of your book for Chapter 9. When you hear the bell, be sure to go to the top of the next page to continue reading along. Let's begin. Chapter 9. More, if you can believe it, exciting things start to happen. The next day, the twins were home alone with Nanny Nan. It was just before lunchtime. John and Abigail were in the dining room, looking through a big book of maps that was so gigantic that they had to put it on the dining table. They had just finished examining the map of France and turned the map of Spain. Casey was sleeping under the dining room table. The doorbell rang. Casey immediately woke up, started barking, and ran toward the front door. The twins were so eager to see who could be visiting them so soon after the move to their new home. But Nanny Nan got there first. They heard the door open, and Nanny Nan said yes. Casey was barking too much for them to hear what the visitor said. Finally, Nanny Nan called out, "Children, please collect this creature and take her elsewhere." So, Abigail dashed to the front door and picked up Casey. She tried to see who was at the door, but Nanny Nan was blocking the way. Abigail carried Casey back to the living room where John was waiting. Then a familiar voice said, very smoothly and pleasantly, "Hello, I've been sent by the professor." Elton Templeton for the children. The professor thinks it would be a fine idea if they went on a little outing with me. The twins waited and listened. Casey squirmed around in Abigail's arm in a ridiculous fashion. "An outing?" Nanny Nan said. "What kind of outing?" "Oh, you know," the man said. "A ride in the country. A pleasant excursion into the surrounding landscapes." "The professor didn't tell me anything about an outing," the nanny said. "Of course not, madame," the voice said. "We only just discussed this a mere minute ago. The professor and I myself, Professor Templeton, Professor Elton Templeton, the father of the lovely children in question, the famous inventor." "Oh, baloney," the nanny said. "First of all, you speak in a weird manner. Second, if the professor wants the children to go on an outing, have him call me and tell me so himself." "Madame," the man said, "I can assure you." "You can't assure me of anything," Nanny Nan said. "I can assure you that either you get lost or I'm going to call the police." And with that, Nanny Nan firmly and loudly shut the door. "Who was that, Nanny Nan?" Abigail called out, putting Casey back on the floor. "No one," the nanny said. "Just a man with a silly mustache." After lunch, the twins were each in their room, pursuing their hobbies. John was practicing his drumsticks on a practice pad because Nanny still would not let him play the drums themselves. Meanwhile, Abigail had persuaded Nanny Nan to let her work on cryptic puzzles for 1 hour, as long as she read the clues out loud. She had just read this clue and was thinking about it. "Red tree found in burlap pleasantly. 5. Here is another hint about solving cryptids. Some clues hide the answers right in front of you. and you don't even have to unscramble any letters. When you see clues like found in or hidden in, it's a signal to look at the arrangement of the letters in the clue itself. Sometimes the answer is formed by combining the letters that end one word with the letters that begin with the next. Is that the case here? Abigail, wait. Another tip for doing cryptics: look for unusual words. Those are quite often the words that contain the letters necessary for the answer. Do you see an unusual word? Oh, please, you do so. I think we can all agree that burlap is an unusual word. Can I assume you know what that is? Very well. Burlap is a kind of rough, scratchy, woven material used in bags that hold things like potatoes, and like the onions you yourselves may have used when you made the meatloaf in the previous chapter. You did make the meatloaf, didn't you? Wasn't it delicious? You can thank me later. Abigail studied the word burlap. Was the answer to be found in the first 2 or 3 letters combined with letters from the word before it? But no, inbird was not a word. And then she saw the answer. A 5-letter word using the last 2 letters of burlap and the first 3 letters of pleasantly. A-P-P-L-E, apple. Which is indeed a red treat. Feeling very happy and satisfied, she had just finished writing the answer in the box when she heard an unfamiliar voice right behind her say very quietly, "Turn around and don't say anything." She turned around and didn't say anything. Standing there was a man who looked, well, not like someone she knew, but like someone who looked like someone she knew. He was wearing blue jeans and a white shirt and a light beige windbreaker, not a beautiful, wonderful suit and tie. "How did you get in here?" Abigail asked. "I walked in through the front door," the man said. "And Casey didn't bark at you?" "Who? The dog? She's asleep on the couch." So there you have it. The one time it would have been helpful for Casey to bark, no matter how ridiculously, at someone coming into the house, she was asleep. I hardly know what to say about such a thing. "Call your brother," the man said in a whisper. "What? I can't hear you," Abigail said. "I said, call your brother," he whispered a bit more loudly. "Why should I?" Abigail said. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" The man said softly, "Here's why you should." And from his pocket, he pulled out an actual gun. Abigail's heart thumped one hard thump. "John," she called, "can you come here for a second?" The man stood off to the side as John appeared in the doorway. He took one look at his sister and stopped dead. He knew something was wrong. The man pulled John into the room, shut the door behind him, and pointed the gun at both the Templeton twins. "Now, you kids are going to be very, very quiet," he said in a whisper. "You're going to go down the steps and out the door and into my car. Period. End of discussion." "We haven't had a discussion," Abigail pointed out. "Just quiet, no talking, period." You look familiar, John said. I mean, sort of. I said no talking, the man said very, very quietly. Now everyone is just going to calm down. We are calm, John said. Calm and quiet. The man gestured toward the door with the gun. Now, very, very quietly. Now where? The door flew open with a bang. It's too quiet in here, Nanny Nan said. I think you two are trying to get away with. Then she saw the man with the gun and stopped talking. They're coming with me, the man said. Children, Nanny Nan said. Do what he says. Then she said to the man, just don't harm them. No one is going to be harmed if they do what I say, the man said. Then put the gun away, Nanny Nan said. They have to do what I say first. They will. Just put the gun away. Why don't you give the gun to me? John said. The man made a face. That's not how this works. We won't harm you, Abigail said. Just give the gun. Just give John the gun, and we'll do what you say. Right, John said. We promise. We won't harm you. No, I promise I won't harm you, the man said. But first, you... Everyone stopped as they heard a loud noise from downstairs. It sounded like someone slamming the front door. Then they listened as a man angrily stomped up the stairs, muttering to himself. A moment later, this person appeared in the doorway. He looked like Dean would look when wearing a big fake mustache, since that is indeed who it was and what he was wearing. Can we please move this along? He said to the first man. The Templeton twins stared at the man who had just arrived. It's you, John said. Why are you wearing a fake mustache? This is a real mustache, little boy, the man said. And I've never seen you before in my life. Yes, you have, Abigail said. You're Dean. I most certainly am not. Yes, you are. Am not. Are. Am not. Are so. Oh, all right. Yes, I am. Dean tore off the big fake mustache and threw it on the floor. Now let's go. I knew I should have called the police, Nanny Nan said. Outing baloney. What does D stand for? Abigail asked. It. Never mind what the D stands for. You're coming with us. Does it stand for Dean? Abigail asked. No, Dean said. The D in my name stands for Dean, the first man said. Who are you? John asked. Dean went over to the first man, ripped the gun out of his hand, and pointed at the twins. He's my brother. I'm Dan Dean, the brother said. Hey, John said. You're twins. It was true. Dean and Dan Dean were, in fact, identical twins, which means they look almost exactly alike. The Templeton twins were not only one boy and one girl, but they looked just slightly alike. They were what we call fraternal twins. Please click on part 2 of chapter 9 to continue reading. Keep your finger right where we left off.